for others to join, and then we can start the session. So if anyone has any question and he wants to ask something, so he can go ahead and ask the question. Okay, so do you have any questions from the previous session? Anybody wants to ask something? You can raise your hands and ask the question, or otherwise you can also post your question in the chat box. No question? So सबने assignment कर ली है? हाँ, yeah, अनुभव, go ahead. Can you repeat because your voice is breaking? Do you have to come for online examination at? Anubhav, can you write it down in the chat box because I'm unable to hear your question. I don't know. I feel that your voice is breaking. So, am I audible to you all clearly? Varsa is writing. Good evening, Varsa. She is writing, yes, sir. Week 1 and 2 assignments are done. Okay, now great. Uh, so I think week 1 and week 2 assignments were quite easy, and you guys can go through the slides, and most of the question you will find the answer in the slides itself. So that's great. I think you guys are doing good. And don't forget to submit your week 1 and week 2 assignment. The last date for submission is 7th of February. I think it's tomorrow. So don't wait for tomorrow. Submit it today itself. Okay. So I think many of you have joined already. Others may follow the session later. So I think we should start it. Anvo is asking, sir, when will we get any center for our examination? Anvo, that is decided by the SWAYAM team itself. So we don't have any interaction with the SWAYAM team. They decide the center. So it's according to the it is according to your choice which you have filled in the examination form. But don't worry, they allot the center according to your preference only. Yes, sir. Week two assignments are done. Yeah, good, Monkeyjan. I'm sorry if I am pronouncing your name wrong. Okay, that's great. That's great to hear that you guys are doing assignments pretty well. Okay, so okay, I can start this session now, and in between, if there are any questions, you guys can raise the hand and ask, or otherwise you can post it in the chat box itself. Okay, so can anyone confirm that my screen is visible? I think it's visible to you all. Okay, so let's start the session then. Okay, it's visible, sir. Okay, so okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome you all to the live session 2 of the course Environmental Impact Assessment. This is the second live session being conducted on 6th of February to the 2024. This course is being taught by Professor Harshit Sohan Lakda, and she is Assistant Professor in Department of Architecture and Planning, IIT Roorkee. And I'm your teaching assistant, Rohit. I'm a PMRS scholar at IIT Bombay. I am here to assist you with your assignments. Not this assignment, because these assignments has been designed so that you guys can attempt it. I will be solving questions from the previous live assignments, and you guys can ask your doubts from the classes or anything, any lectures or anything in your mind. Doesn't mean that it has to be from this course only. You guys can ask anything, we can discuss on that. Okay, so once again, welcome you all. Okay, so okay, so this session, what is my teaching methodology? So it's not a teaching class. This is the first thing. So there are lectures from the professor himself, sorry, herself. She has uploaded the lectures, and you can go through that lectures. I'm not a teacher here. I'm here to interact with you all, so that you guys, your discussions, we can have a discussion, fruitful discussion, and you guys can raise your questions, and I can help you with assignment question. That is the main teaching methodology. So we'll be having discussion on the topic taught in the weekly lectures. The topics which I find interesting, we will be discussing on those topics in the lecture. Then we can have doubt clearing, like you guys can have doubts like, sir, what is this, what is EIA or something. Then third component is interaction. So this is what why this session is there, to interact with the students, like what are the different things that are being taught in the lectures or any other things. So for that, please use the discussion forum also. Discussion forum with design, so that if you have any questions, many more students can benefit through your questions. And then otherwise, you can raise your hand and ask the question, and use the chat box freely to post your questions if you are very shy in asking the questions in the live session itself. Okay, let me see, somebody wants to join. Anil wants to join. Okay, uh, I see no live questions. Okay. So what I will do, I will ask questions like we are going to solve questions from the previous assignments also. Before that, I will go through the slides once again. It's like the slides which are in the week two. So in between, I will point out some students and ask questions like, what is this? What is this? So don't feel embarrassed. If you know, you can answer it. Even if you know wrong, you can answer it in that way. There is no one going to judge you. It's not a session to award you marks or something. Be free. You can speak anything. Okay. So before going to the assignment question, I think we should go to this a recap of the weekly lectures. That will be quite good because I find some interesting topics and I was going through these topics and I find some of the things should be discussed with you guys. So this is the thing here. I think can we go full screen? I think by pressing F1. Yeah, it's already full screen. So the lecture 6 was basically on definition, purpose, and process of EIA. So I will not go much detail into that because we have to go through a long session. So I want more of a interactive thing going on between us, okay, rather than I am going to teach everything. So this is basically an economic development process in environmental context. So how economy and environment are interrelated, because whatever we do for our economy, like if we are going for economic development, certainly there will be some impacts on the environment. It is a true thing. We can't stop this impact. What we can do, we can mitigate those impacts. Like if there is air pollution, so how can these air pollution be minimized? If there is water pollution, so let's see that key this water pollution thing can be handled very carefully so that the water we drink, or it should not be it should not lead to a scarcity of water or something, eutrophication or biomagnification or something. Okay, so this is the main thing. Yeah, this is a very important report. This report, why can anyone say why Brundtland Commission report of 1987, which is termed as our common future? Why this report is important? Any one of you can unmute yourself and say why we discuss Brundtland Commission report of 1987. Anyone? Anyone wants to say anything about this Brundtland Commission report? No one. Okay, so basically, Brundtland Commission report was the first report. Basically, this sustainable development term was used earlier also, but this Brundtland Commission report was the first report that actually, what you say, contextualized this term. So this everybody got to know this what is sustainable development. It became a talk of the town that let's have a development, let's have a economic development, but it should be sustainable. Okay, so the term sustainable development is there. We should have a, now we are going to define what is sustainable development. So these things are actually carried out in later lectures, but to give you a basic idea, sustainable development is something comes from word sustain. So what are the levels of economic development or usage of resources which we are using? So it should be sustained for our future generations also. They should not feel like their portion of resources has been utilized by us, in simple terms. So if we are drinking, suppose 1 liter of water per person at today's point of view. So if we are going, if this water consumption increases to 1.5 liter, there are not enough water resources in the, like we have very limited ponds, we have very limited groundwater resources. So if this groundwater resources or ponds they dried up or something, so when our future generation will come, like our son or our children will come, then they will find very difficult to get water. There will be a lot of water scarcity for them. So to solve those things, the term sustainable development is there. No, we should not utilize the resources in such a manner or in such a pace that our future generation will find them constrained to get some resources. Okay, so that is why this report, the Brundtland Commission report called the Our Common Future, is very important when we discuss the term sustainable development. Okay, so anyone wants to say something about this? Like what do you feel, what do you guys feel about this term sustainable? Anyone wants to say anything? Like many of us are from villages, so I find village life is more sustainable than city. Yeah, Indra, go on. Mm-hmm. Hmm. Okay, so this is quite correct. We should not hamper our future generation to uh, constrain them in utilizing the resources. I agree with you, Indra. So I'm not asking for a definition, Indra. I'm just asking for from your point of view, like what you see in your house or in your community. Point out something like some. Give me some examples which you feel is quite good example of a sustainable development. Do you think anything in your surrounding you feel that it is sustainable? Saving? Hmm. Yeah, totally agree. I agree with you, Indra, because people earlier people what they do, they use very less water for anything and they conserve water. But what we see now that people are not only people, I won't say people, but fittings are like this key. If there is a drop of water, then it will go on forever and then will a good amount of water is lost. So yeah, it's a very complex example, but I agree with you. A very easy example which I will give. So we have this our northeastern states. So they do a kind of agriculture that is more sustainable. They use organic farming, like Sikkim is leader in organic farming. Meghalaya is doing great. Nagaland, Manipur, they are doing very great kind of agriculture. So they don't harm the environment. That is a kind of development is sustainable development. Okay. So what we do in our India is that we are using more of okay, Indra, you are from Manipur. Wow, great. So that is why, Indra, I am trying to say that give examples from your locality so that people can know. So yeah, what I see that in India mainly people are shifting towards using lot of fertilizers, lot of other chemicals, so that these things are not sustainable at all. We can get the produce a higher produce at today's time, but after some time the fertility of soil goes down, it will produce less. So when our future generation will come, they will get less produce from that land. So this is why we need to follow the agriculture practices which are most sustainable, which are practices being practiced in good pockets of our country. Okay. Versa is saying, sir, to restore the ecosystem for the future generations so they can utilize it in proper manner. Yeah, Versa, that's correct. Totally correct from it. So, anyone else want to give some example from his or her locality or something? Any example from your locality which you want to give, which you want the other students to know, like, yeah, this is something which is practiced in our locality and that is sustainable. I am sure that there are lots of examples, but you guys are something feeling shy to express it out. Magijan is saying, sir, another one in waiting list. I think no one is in the waiting list. No one. Okay, so this is what we were discussing. Like we are shifting towards unsustainable development. That is what need to be stopped. And whatever development which we are doing, it doesn't mean sustainable development doesn't mean we go back to some previous or ancient era type of things. Sustainable development means obtaining or adopting the best practices that doesn't harm the environment and at the same time conserve the resources so that our future generation have the same level of resources which we are having. Okay, so it does include a good amount of use of technology. It does include a good amount of usage of resources, but with judicious nature. You need to be very judicious when you are using something. Okay, so now let's move to the next part of the slide. So definition of EIA, I won't go into this. Environmental impact assessment of process. Yeah, this is important because important steps in the EIA process. So this is the important step. Like there is a project screening. So this thing actually I had discussed in the last interaction session also. So uh, discussing again and again may get some boring for you guys. So I will keep it very short. So it's project screening, scoping. So this is like identifying a project on which we do EIA. Then we predict the impact. Then we put the impact and review the like what this impact mean for the people or the stakeholders. Then we make a decision. Then after decision we monitor that if impacts are actually as per the convenience or as per the calculation which has been done in the EI report. Is there any other impact which has been there because of this um, project which has come up? Okay, so last question. Last time I had a lot of question regarding which project should have a EIA, which project should not have a EIA, and if we have a EIA, then who will conduct the EIA? Okay, so first thing is that we have a project. There is a notification from the government of India, and that notification has classified the projects into A, B1 and B2. Okay, so projects which are listed in A, like if you are mining on minor minerals like major minerals like coal. Okay, minor minerals are like something very small minerals like mm, uh, something like titanium or something. These are mined in very small quantities or something. Okay, so if the area is 100 hectare of land, so there will be EIA. If it is between 5 to 100 hectare, there will be EIA. But for that 100 hectare, the national level appraisal will be there for A quality of project, A type of project, and for B1 it will be state level assessment will be there. And for B2, I think there will be no assessment needed. Okay, so these can have the environment clearance as per the EIA notification. Okay, category B1 and B2 state level appraisal, but generally B2 they give a EIA is not a very requirement for the B2 or something. The purpose of EIA, so yeah, So there were various convention. Getting into detail of these convention is quite stressful or for this session, or it's a very long task. So I will just give a very brief introduction. Like there are RS convention, and there are various other convention also. So you can watch these videos to have a good understanding of the topic of AIA. Then this slide was quite useful when I was talking about like EIA impact areas. So there was a component like here you were identifying the impacts of the EIA here. Okay, prediction of impact. So what are the impacts? What impact are we looking for? So there can be biophysical impact. So bio means biological, physical means something which has a material quantity. So air, soil is physical quantity, air is physical quantity. So flora and fauna biological quantity. So the interaction between them and some impacts on these things are basically considered. Okay. So what can be the impacts, like type of environmental impacts? It can be biophysical, social, health, or economic. Okay. Similarly, there is a nature of impact, whether it is direct or indirect or cumulative impact. So I have the slides made for these direct and indirect. I will try to explain these terms in a very uh, brief manner, but you will get to understand that what are direct impacts or cumulative impacts. I think there are slides here also. So if you see, like there is a smoke coming out from the chimney. This is some industry, and the smoke is coming out from the industry. So what can be the direct impact? Direct impact is the air pollution, like pollution, smoke, and all those things which you see. But due to this air pollution, you can get asthma or some lung disease or something. So this health of you is basically indirect environmental impact. It is not directly because of this chimney, but because of the air pollution which has occurred is affecting your health. So indirect impact, generally it can take months to appear, or sometimes it appears in a very short duration of time, but direct impact generally appears in a very short duration of time. It is direct impact which is felt directly due to this. Okay. Similarly, water scarcity can be a direct impact, but water scarcity, so many people have more resources, so they can build tanks and they can have a good quality of water. So because of water scarcity, there is socio-economic impact also. Okay, so distribution of water between different strata of the society, like city people can get a good amount of water, village people can get a very less amount of water. Similarly, okay, nature of environmental impact. So yeah, this is also very important. Then magnitude and severity is there. So getting into, I think most of the things are quite explainable while you read, like significance, whether these impacts are important or not so important. Like if you see air pollution, this is very important impact you need to consider. But it's something like there is a change in uh, what you say, a very simple change, like a change in the tree color, so it may not have some significant impact because of that. Okay. So now third slide is basically about the ecosystem services. So before going to this third slide, I think I should cover third slide and then move to the assignment question, then come back to the last two slides. So that will be quite easy for you guys to interact with the slides also. In between, let me see if anybody has asked any question. No question from you guys till now. Okay, so if there is no question from you guys, so let me ask you a question then. So will it be okay if I ask a question? Okay, so can you tell me something, some impact from industry that is related to water? Anyone? See, if I build a industry and a water stream going nearby, so what can be the impact, environmental impact especially, that can be felt on the water? Yeah, Anjali has said tanning industry. Yeah, tanning industry has a lot of impact, especially in I think tanning is there in state of Uttar Pradesh or something. So it does have a lot of impact. One of the impact which IIT Bombay studies, IIT Kanpur studies, sorry, not IIT Bombay. IIT Bombay also study a lot of impact. So yeah, they study the chromium, induction of chromium 6 in the water bodies. So that is a quite a uh, uh, covalent ion or something, chromium 6, that cause a lot of cancer occurring in the human health or something. So they are studying that. Distillery industry, yes, your distillery industry, heavy metal effects are there. Indra is right, heavy metal effects are there. They are very toxic and they goes into the groundwater, then they contaminate it, and heavy metals like arsenic and all those things are quite high these days in water. You see a lot of problems of having arsenic, nitrite, all those things. Yeah. Any other? So these things are quite scientific. Maybe may not. Maybe a lot of students may not relate to these things. Chemical factory. Versa is saying chemical factory. Yeah, Versa. There are chemical factory that pollute it. But I want to know the impacts. Like, what are the impact that you feel very in simple words, simple impacts. I want to know. Like if I am uh, like in simple words, what you say, we call it effluent, the thing that is coming out of industry. So if we have a dirty water that is mixing into a river, okay, so what is the major impacts which you feel? Very small impacts, or something which is very much related. You don't need a very scientific knowledge. Skin allergy, Indra is right, skin allergy. Yeah, people go and bath in the river, so they will get the skin allergy. First thing causes cancer. Yeah, cancer also. Aquatic life is there. Yeah, fishes will die due to the polluted water. These are direct impacts. Yeah. Odor, smell of the water will change. Color of the water will change. The stream from the river going to the field affect the crops. Yeah, Versa is also right. The stream will affect the crops certainly. So what crop will do? They will take away the heavy metals from them and absorb it. Then through those crops, it will come out to our body, and that will help. That will cause cancer and many other diseases also. Aquatic flora and fauna disturbed. Yeah, Subhas is quite correct. Aquatic flora and fauna will get disturbed. Water table disturbed. This is also correct. Degrade water quality. Hemlata is writing. Degrade water. Fluorosis. Anjali is writing. Very good example. Fluorosis. Fluorosis. Okay, so these things are quite very simple, but people try to ignore it. But these things are actually being caused by the, like we have a Ganges river, and Ganges is now getting polluted day by day. So now government is taking quite good step to control the pollution. So but still we have Yamuna river in Delhi, so a stretch of Yamuna river is actually declared dead in Delhi. No aquatic life or flora and fauna can sustain it. So this is what the direct impact. So we have air, we have water, then what can, so soil, what can be the impact on soil? Can anyone answer? What can be the impact on soil? Direct and very simple impacts. You guys should pronounce very simple impacts so that the students can also relate with them. Soil chemistry degradations was writing. Desertification, Indra is writing. Very good. Top layer removed due to toxic chemicals. Very good. So uh, where are other students? So I could see Sivraj. Can you name some impact? Prabodh. So I want everyone to name one impact so that everybody can participate and discuss. Anjali is writing jeopardizes food security. Very good. That's correct. Food security is an important concern, and if we damage our soil, then God knows about the food. Okay, so mm, okay, so let's move to the this slide and then we'll move to the assignment questions. So this slide is also these impacts were carried out, and then we studied the economic impact. Then we have the social impact, quality of life, well-being, community participation, all these social impacts. Then we have health impact. Like health impact are very common. Everybody can understand the health impact due to environmental impacts. Emerging impact area, aquatic equality deprivation. This is very important emerging impact area. Culture and language, land acquisition, resettlement and livelihood, climate change, ecosystem services. The ecosystem services get hampered. So how equality and deprivation. So they have actually uh, given some case studies here, like Equality Act of, I think this is for don't Germany or UK or maybe I don't know. So they passed the Equality Act. Okay. Similarly, human rights impact assessment of the Malin mine Guatemala. So minings have a lot of impact, too much of impact due to mining, and these open cast mines are very very impactful. Then there is something called training manual community based human right impact assessment in Guatemala, cultural impact. So basically in these slides, language impact assessment. Okay. So in these slides, basically various impacts with case studies has been discussed. So you guys can go through the videos and have a good understanding about these impacts. Okay. So this is, I think this is for the Narmada Bachao Andolan or something. They have taken pics from some other things like building a metro corridor thing. So when we talk about climate change, so there are two things, like one is the mitigation and another is adaptation. So these two terms are very confusing and generally students confuse with these two terms, mitigation and adaptation. So uh, can anyone say it in simple terms? What do you mean by mitigation when it is about this climate change thing or adaptation? Subhash, you right, mitigation is to reduce the impact, quite correct. And what is for adaptation? Adaptation is to accept the change. Very simple words, and he has actually explained it very beautifully, Subhas. So you guys can see his definitions. Very simple and very effective. You can note it down also. Mitigation is to reduce the impact. If something environmental impact is there, you have to reduce it. That is called mitigation. Something which has occurred, like pollution has occurred, then so let's give an example. Let's take an example of pollution in Delhi. Okay. So basically, what Delhi government is doing, they are actually persuading farmers to don't burn their stubble or parali in the sense, so that air pollution from Delhi can be reduced. So this is mitigation. Don't burn your parali, save it. We'll buy it. Don't burn. Okay, that is mitigation. Then what farmers do, basically farmers have to sow their crops very fast. Okay, so they don't have a good amount of time to go for this or collect all the stubble then sell it to the government or something. Okay, and government machinery is also not very effective to collect them. So they clear the fields very fast. So what they do for clearing the field, they burn the stubble in the field itself. So that cause a lot of pollution. So when pollution has already occurred, so what Delhi government is building? So they are building cooling towers. They are spraying rains or artificial rains are being planned. Okay, let's have some artificial rains and get this done. So that is the adaptation. Okay, pollution has already occurred. Then we are putting some steps to contain it. and mitigation is like stopping the pollution itself or reducing the impacts. Okay, pollution ही now ऐसा. Okay, so these things are there. So in that terms, various in terms of water pollution also we can have mitigation plan. Similarly for climate change also, basically all these things are basically interrelated and go to the climate change thing. Why we are concerned about global warming or something? Because it will lead to climate change, then it will wipe off all our races. We are interconnected now. We have some food chain, so something we are eating, so it is wiped out, then we are also wiped out. Okay, so that is why it is very important to know, to think something in the line that we have very less environmental impact. And by environment it is very simple. So you need to conserve it. Environment will regrow itself. Just conserve it what it is there. Okay. So I think this slide is also over. Nothing much to discuss here. Okay. So these two slides I will discuss. These two are very important slides. It gives the history of EIA, and I will ask you guys for the history. You guys can open these slides in your phone or something, and I will ask the history from you guys. You guys should explain what is the history of EIA or something. Okay. So it's already 7:44. So let's have a one minute break, and I want to listen to you guys about the history of EIA. If anyone wants to say anything, so let's see who hasn't spoken any word. Mm, Magijan Esther. Medono. Can you say something about the history of EIA? Medono, Prabodh, Ria, Sivraj, anyone? Or anyone from you guys? Any student who wants to speak something about this EIA, the history of EIA, how it has emerged, or where it was first practiced? How? Okay, Prabodh is saying, can you please continue because I'm traveling. Yes, sure, Prabodh, no problem. So no problem. Any other student can answer. Don't worry. Or let's stop EIA. EIA has a very like very good history, not a very rich history. Actually, it started with USA. Sir, it was started in 1970 to check the River Valley project. Ah, Indra is correct. It does started in 1970 to check the River Valley project. So basically, River Valley project was for India. So um, it started in United States actually. So there was an act, National Environment Policy Act, NEPA. So that is a very good act in the US. So US generally has a very good act. They draft a very good legislation, and then sometimes the world follow them. Okay. Subhas is writing environment is a major stakeholder in any project. So the assessment to the possible damage must be done before start or job to look for mitigation technique. Quite correct, Subhas. So something like when we are talking about this EIA thing. So before talking about EIA, let's understand the environment. Like if we say that India doesn't lag behind in EIA or something environment acts. So USA generally start thinking about they drafted the National Environment Policy Act in 1970 for Jan 1970 or June 1970 something. Okay. So India doesn't lag behind. They passed their first environment legislation in 1974. They passed the Water Act in 1974. So we had at the time our prime minister was Mrs. Indira Gandhi, and she was quite active in environment field. So she has several lines also about this environment impacts or some things. She has like whenever we develop, we also contribute to the development of environment also. In development doesn't mean we kill the environment and then we develop. So this is the main thing. Okay. So when we are talking about environment, so nobody can put a finger at us like we doesn't have any legislation. We started looking after our environment in through legislation in 1970s itself. And before 1970s also we have quite a good amount of movement, rights, etc. Also if you see the Indian lifestyle also, like from the ancient times or something, Indian lifestyle, whether you go to any part of India, whether you go to south, whether you go to west, whether you go to north or east, northeast, any part of our states, all states have a beautiful culture of preserving environment. They tie different sacred threads around the banyan tree. So how much they correlate with the environment. Even the people are so happy planting trees and planting flowers in their homes. So you can see how much this environment thing is rooted in us. Okay. So this is how environment is taken care of and will be taken care of in India. Okay, so let's move to the assignment questions. So we generally had a lot of discussion about first three slides and last two slides are quite important. So if we get time, we will have a discussion on that also. And those slides are quite okay. And before that, let's start with the assignment questions. So these assignment questions are quite easy one. You don't find them very difficult if you have gone through the slide. My only request is that please go through the slides of the professor. Those slides are quite important in answering the assignment, solving the assignment questions also. And when you will go for this final exam, you can have a very good amount of questions from those slides itself. So you get a lot of knowledge through this. How do I get the slides? You have the option to get the slides when you click on the week 2 you get 4 to 5 topics, then click on the topics, you will see the slide is there. You can download those slides by clicking them. Okay. Okay, so now let's move to the assignment questions. So we were having discussion about teaching methodology, then we had the recap of this week 2. So the first question is, and I will want you guys to solve this question. The first question is find the correct match for following pairs of drivers and pressures relevant to the marine environment. Okay, so relevant to the marine environment, you need to match the following pairs of drivers and pressure. Okay, so basically, first thing is that what are the drivers and pressures. Okay, so pressures is something which is putting stress on that. Drivers are something which you can say it as a factors. or components. Okay, so for marine environment, these are direct drivers. So A, B, C is there. You need to identify which of them is correct match. So direct drivers is tourism, shipping, and agriculture. Okay. So I think if you see the marine environment, a lot of tourism is there, like Maldives, Lakshadweep. Okay, so people are going there. Andaman Islands. Shipping is also there. Lot of ships go through the marine environment. They put a lot of stress on the marine environment. Agriculture is also there. We have a lot of things getting from the marine environment, like fish. Okay, aquaculture or something. Then we have indirect drivers like food. Yeah, fish. Construction is also there. Recreation is also there. Like we go with a boat or something, then we get energy from there also. Principal drivers like population growth will impact it, urbanization will impact it. How urbanization will impact the marine environment? You build coastal roads, then you reclaim land from the sea. Economic development, climate change will impact it, because even if the temperature of the sea will rise by 1 or 2 degrees Celsius, the CO2 which is dissolved in the water will release, and it will populate the environment, and then global warming and all those things. Okay, so I think all these three options are correct, A, B, C. So the correct answer is answer D. Then the question comes, what constitute the marine environment? Okay, so marine environment, you need to see what constitute these marine environment. So these two slides, these two pics actually depict the marine environment, marine ecosystem. So this is a very beautiful pic. These are coral reefs. Okay, corals actually. So these shiny corals, then they give host, they give shelter to a lot of fish varieties. Okay, turtles, sea snakes, sea horses or something. Okay, octopuses, octopus. So this is how they provide shelter and they contribute to the marine ecosystem. Then you see seabirds are there, then fish, shark, dolphins, red COD, arrow squid, fish, commercial, all these consist of marine ecosystems. So basically when you talk about marine ecosystem, so marine ecosystem are aquatic environments with very high level of dissolved salts. Okay, so it doesn't talk about the inland ecosystem of like pond or something. It does have, should have a high level of dissolved salt like we found in the ocean, sea, or some coastal lakes. Okay, saltwater lakes. These include open sea, deep sea, ocean, coastal marine ecosystem, each of which has a different physical and biological characteristic. Okay, so when it is saying different physical and biological characteristics, it is quite correct. Everything will have some other specific organism in them. Okay, then I have put a very important video. I think if time, yeah, time is permitting. So we can see this marine ecosystem video. So you guys can understand what does constitute a marine ecosystem, and you guys will find it interesting also seeing this video. Okay. So now let me play this video. So yeah, my screen is visible. Okay. So let's see this video. So, did you guys found this video interesting? Was that interesting? Did you Subhasi writing Mariana Trench? Yeah, Mariana Trench is there. Yes. Okay, so that's why I want to put these kind of videos so you guys can feel quite interesting. These That's why this interaction session had to be made interesting for you guys. Okay, so you see, even in the marine ecosystem, there are several layers. Okay, euphotic zone or some types of zone. So quite different types of animals or fishes live there. So you can say this is a devil fish or something, but those fish are adapted for that thing. Okay, so they have been adapted for that environment. So this is what is with all the organisms which are living on this earth, even including us as humans. We are adapted for our situation. If situation changes, then we will adapt for that also. If there are no sunlights, then we will have some body which have glowing lights with under our skin or something. Okay, so this is how an ecosystem actually develops and builds up throughout the millions of years. Okay, so moving back to the slides, you see, so I think you guys must have got a good idea about this marine ecosystem or something. So let's move to the question 2, and I want you guys to solve this question. Complete the following diagram of economic development process in its environmental context. So this diagram, I am sure you guys have got this seen this diagram in the slide itself. So you just have to put the value of A, B, and C. That's all. Okay. So basically, first thing first. So A is the first block. So first block will be input. Okay. So mark the input. So where are the inputs? Inputs are here and here. Then after input, what it can be? Economy. Both have the economy option. So let's say it's economy. Okay. Then C is basically, so we have environment pollution, environment, and then we have no environment itself contains the biosphere. So it will be resource depletion. So that is why it is a matter of concern now. Resource depletion, then it is going back as a feedback loop to A. So we'll get less resource as input and then all these things. Okay. So the correct answer is answer A. Okay. So see this diagram. If you find anything, any question you want to ask about this diagram, you guys can write it in the chat box. Let me see the sheet. If you have any questions, discard. How Subhas has asked, how do we define economy in this context, sir? Okay, so basically, if we see the diagram, let me share it, Subhas. So basically, if we see this diagram, the question is asking economic development process and in its environmental context. So if anything, basically there are two contexts. One is economic development and another is environment. These two are important. So they are marked in like pink or something, magenta, I don't know. And then we have in light green environment. So these two things are interrelated. So how they are interrelated, that is what this diagram is telling about. So for economic development, we need some resources as input. Okay. So because of first let me explain this, then I will give an example, then that will make it clear, this diagram more clear. I will replace this economic development with some other term. So economic development, it will generate waste, and similarly there will be outputs. Those outputs will be used, and that will also generate waste. So these waste, generally what these waste are, these waste go to environment as soil, air, water pollution. Okay, so if there is plastic waste, it will go to landfill. If there is smoke coming out of it, that is also a flue gas waste. So that will pollute the environment. So environment pollution will be there. It will affect the environment. So if environment is affected, then where are we getting the resources? So there will be resource depletion. It will affect the input again. This is how it is related, interrelated. So people earlier were saying no, environment is a different entity, resource economic development is totally different entity. No, these two are actually interrelated with each other. This is how this diagram is showing. Now what you will do, replace it with iron and steel industry. Okay, or let's replace it with this B with not economic development. Let's replace it with iron and steel industry. So for iron and steel industry, let's let me write iron and steel industry. So there will be input. Input is iron ore. Another input will be like, let's say, wood. We don't have discovered this coal yet now, or let's say coal also, and many other catalyst or something. Okay, as input. So there will be some waste like ballast furnace slag or something. Let's say slag is the waste. Okay, then we have steel as product. Then this steel will be again processed and used in various building houses. That will also generate waste. Okay, so where does this waste go? This waste will go to landfill. So whenever there will be landfill, we'll have to take a good amount of land. Okay, good amount of land is required. So that land is deemed unusable for a short period of time or something, quite a long period of time. So that land grows back to its original form in 30 or 40 years. So that will cause a land pollution or something, and then we have less land available. And if it is the wood is coming from the environment, then because of less land, less wood will be available in a longer context, I am saying. Okay, so resource depletion is there. Resource depletion will affect the input also, so that will hamper the economic development also. So this whole cycle goes on and on. Okay, so this is what this diagram is actually depicting in its interlinked form. proposes prior to the major decision being taken and commitment made, defined with the International Association for Impact Assessment, that is called IAIA. So mind it, maybe this definition can be asked in the exam or something. It defined IAIA. So answer is written here, but I want you guys to go through the question again and try to see whether this statement is true or false, and if it is true, why it is true. Explain this graph. Okay, so I will leave you guys with this graph for 1 or 2 minutes. So I want you guys to explain this graph. Somebody can turn on his mic also and can explain, or otherwise you can write in the chat box also. I will favor if somebody can, someone wants to join. So I will favor if somebody wants to unmute his mic and try to answer this graph. Let me share it again. Anyone wants to explain this graph? What does this line means? What does this mean? What does this gap mean? Yeah, someone wants to explain this? Let me see if somebody has said anything. No one. This is very simple graph here. I guess you guys must have understood it, or you guys want to make me explain it or something. No one? Varsha, Subhas, Magijan, Indra. Okay, no problem. So, so this graph shows how the environment impacted with or without the EA. Yeah, Subhas is quite correct. This is what this graph depicts actually. So this is very simple graph. Let's see. See what this is the state of environment. Let's say this is the point where state of environment, and this is degrading. When you go down, state of environment goes down. It is degrading. Okay, and if this goes up, then state of environment is getting better. More trees are there. More better, cleaner air is there. So if there is no EIA, no project is there, so it will remain as it is. Okay, with some degradation, it will state of environment will remain as it is. And if we do not perform an EIA, like we do not identify the impacts, we do not adopt the mitigation strategies or something, So there will be lot of degradation in the environment, which you can see a steep slope from the this point, project initiation point. Like more trees will fail, more air pollution, more water. Then we perform a EIA here and identify the impacts. Like there are water pollution, there is air pollution, there is something, there is soil degradation. Then we identify, then we adopt the mitigation strategies. There will be environment degradation, but it will be less compared to without EIA. So what this does, earlier this gap was this much, but EIA bridges this gap. Okay, only this much is the environment degradation. Earlier, how much is it? It was like this. So this is the impact which EIA bridges. Okay, this is the amount of environment we saved from degradation because of EIA. So this is how this graph. Huh, yeah, sure. Okay, no problem. You can speak now. Hmm. Okay. Like open dumping. Hmm, hmm, hmm. Okay. I think we lost you in between. Your mic is again not working or something. Subhas, are you saying something? Yeah, yeah. We got you again. Okay. Say. Mm-hmm. Some other tree. Yeah, sure. Beneficial for the environment. Yeah. Yeah, very good. I think this is what I am trying to say, and this is what you explained it very beautifully through your project or through your insights from your work. Okay. So yeah, this is something. EIA is not a magic tool that will help environment grow again. It will help to minimize the impact on the environment because we are identifying the impact. We are talking with the stakeholders. We are saying, ki, okay, these are the impacts. Let's deploy some technologies to minimize these impacts. So if we are cutting trees, let's plant 10 trees. Okay. So this is what EIA does, and it is very important. Yes, sure. Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good idea. Na? We will not need any land for the road. So those lands can be used for agriculture. Imagine we are building a 10 lane of express highways between Mumbai and Delhi. So how much of the land is gone into that? So that land can be utilized in the agricultural purposes. Okay, so that's quite a good and quite you say f- future project, future ready project, I can say. So yeah, these type of projects are needed. These type of studies, these type of things When we have a good vision, so identify the impacts, then we can identify the ways to preserve our environment also. Okay, so now let's move to the next question then. So when was EIA made mandatory across India under Environmental Protection Act? So basically, EIA Environment Protection Act was passed in which year? So let me answer. This EIA was made mandatory in India by 1994. So these things you have to remember. Okay, these are very simple years which you can remember. First thing is that the Environment Protection Act, when in which year Environment Protection Act was passed? Can anyone say? Yeah, sure, that's correct. That's a correct. Okay, Environment Protection Act was passed in 1986. It was a comprehensive act. Earlier we had Water Act, we had Air Act. So there was a feel that no, we cannot have only water under our inspection, and we cannot have our have air under our inspection. We need a whole comprehensive act for everything: air, water, soil, everything. So that's why we had Environment Protection Act 1986. So see, you can see here ki in 1986 Environment Protection Act was passed, but EIA was actually made mandatory in 1994. So we had 8 years of gap between these two. Why not the EIA should start in 1986 itself? Okay, so this is how a more proactive approach is needed. When we see some act, we pass some act. So these acts, when identify the impacts, so the component of something, some tool can be incorporated in these acts. Okay, now I have put a let me erase this, and now let me explain the process of EIA in India. So this is specifically for India. Okay, so moreover this happens in the world itself. So these things are actually taken and adapted for India. Okay, so first thing is that let me explain it in terms of a project. Okay, so that will make it more you guys can relate it more frequently. So project identification. So let's say we want to build a car company. Okay, car manufacturing company. You have a let's say Maruti. Let's not take a name. Let's say we have a car company, a very good car company. Okay, and you want to make a big plant of producing 1,000 cars per day. So that will require a big plant. So because a big plant, it may require 100 acres of area, 1,000 acres of area. So we identified it that it will require EIA to be done for this. So we identified the proposal that this car plant will require EIA, Environment Impact Assessment. So these two steps are done here: project identification and screening. Okay. Now, after screening, we see that whether we have decided that EIA will be required, and if there is no EIA, then go ahead. There is no need for any clearance from any ministry or any control boards, pollution control boards, or any nodal agency. Okay, so if we decide that EIA is required, so then we decide the scoping. Then a scoping phase is there. How much is the portion of that car manufacturing unit or something, or how much like there can be several environmental impacts. So we need to identify that these impacts we will study, these are major impacts, and that will have some environmental terms or something. So these things are basically done in the scoping phase. Then after the scoping phase, we go for impact analysis. So what are the different impacts? Okay, and scoping also will also include various like inputs, what are the inputs, what are the outputs, everything. So we define a boundary area for that. With these things, we are going to identify and study. Then we have this impact analysis, like what are the impacts which are there because of this car industry. So what can be impact due to a car manufacturing unit? We can have a air, we can have a water, then we can have a soil, or someone can say we can have a noise also. Noise is also a very big impact. Okay. Generally, we focus on these three only, but noise is also a big impact for industry. Then we identify the impact, like there will be air pollution, there will be water pollution, there will be soil pollution. Then there will be some direct health impact, like if lead is leaking, then we can have some. If nitrate is leaking, then we have some blue baby syndrome in babies. The soil is degraded, then we have less crops. So these are the impacts. Okay, direct and indirect impacts. Now what we can do, we will employ mitigation and impact management. Okay, so we will provide mitigation measure, like there will be soil pollution. So heavy metal, the output which contains heavy metal or waste which contains heavy metal should not go directly to the soil or something. Then we have water pollution. We will not put any effluent into the water body, nearby water bodies. Okay, or we will treat them with various techniques, primary, tertiary, and secondary treatment units. Okay. Then for air, we can identify that we can increase the chimney height. Okay, so this smoke can go and disperse in outer, like a much higher height. It will affect less to the local air pollution. Okay, or we can put some filters like ESP, in air pollution control units, ESP, and similarly measure other units. So these are mitigation. Then after identifying the impacts, calculating the impacts, suggesting mitigation strategies, we submit the EIA, we prepare the EIA report. That goes for a review. So these reviews are done by specific agency. For state, it is state nodal agency or SPCB something. For central agency is there. Okay. During review phase, public involvement, like stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? Public are the stakeholders, nearby villages are the stakeholders. Similarly, all those city, if it's in city, then urban people are the stakeholders. Okay, so these people are actually taken into confidence, and those EIA impacts are actually made clear to them. So they put their view like, okay, mitigation measures are enough. You can go ahead with the project. We don't have any issue with that. In the scoping phase, also public involvement is there. Like how much is the uh, boundary which you are defining? Are we there into it or something like that? Okay. So it doesn't mean that only these two things have only public involvement. It may occur at any stages of the AEA process also, but generally these two phases public involvement is there. Then after public involvement, decision is made by the agency review during review, and then yes, the project is approved. Then we have this project implementation, like we will build a big car manufacturing unit, and then we will have a follow up also, like whether the mitigation measures which we were identified in the EIA report, are they there in the place, or are they working well for the identified impacts or not. If it is not improved, then we what we do, we redesign the project. No, this project will not work. So what we do, we redesign it. Now earlier it was 1,000 unit car manufacturing unit, we put some advanced technology which doesn't produce any effluent or something which goes into water. So this is how we do, we redesign it, we resubmit it, then whole process goes again and again. Okay, so this is how it goes on in India. Okay, and in any parts of the world. So if there are any questions regarding this, please feel free to ask. Okay, let me raise this so you guys can have a good understanding. Please feel free to ask if there are any questions. Unmute your mic, ask it, or otherwise you can post your questions in the chat forum also. Third level. So I think earlier I have said there is whole notification for that EIA. Projects are actually classified in Group A, Group B1, Group B2. So basically, based on that, you identify that whether your project will require a EIA or not EIA. Okay. So I think let me go to the slide that will make you more clear. This slide was there. I think it was in the first slide or something. Yeah, you can see A, B1, B2. So this is how, if your projects fall into category A, then national level committee will decide whether you are your project. So if it falls into this A1, B1, A, B1, B2, then there will be requirement of EIA. Okay. So basically, it's a very comprehensive schedule which has been published. So it covers all the industry. Everything is covered here. Okay. Any other questions? That was a good question because you guys should know who is going to decide. And if it is saying impact analysis, what are the impacts? You should know. Yeah, these reports are made public. So when you go to this, I think Ministry of Environment and Forest something, so they have this EIA report. Even the companies have to make these EIA reports public. Okay, because public is the stakeholder of this EIA report. So in India, there happens a lot of things, but these EIA reports have to be made public. Okay, these are available on the websites also. So generally, when you see in paper that uh, report was there, so they are talking about EIA report. Environment report is EIA report, Environment Impact Assessment report. Okay, like when you see in paper that a road is being built and 4,000 trees are going to be felled. Matlab, trees will be cut for making this road. So where does this 4,000 trees number come? They come from an EIA report. These journalists study these EIA reports, then they print like, and that is actually helpful when they publish it. So people can make their mind, oh, 4,000 trees for a simple road. Why do we need to cut 4,000 trees for a single road? No, no, we don't need this road. We need our trees. So please do make some other proposal. Please redesign the road so that these trees can be saved. Okay. Any other question? Let me see in the chat box also if anybody has asked any question. Yeah, there is a question. Okay, Subhas itself has asked who will decide EIA is required or not. Okay, so I think EIA has been this question has been answered. Who will decide EIA is required or not? It's already there in the Gazette notification, and basically Ministry of Environment decides. Okay, so Indra has said that in 1986. So Indra, I think Indra must have been talking about this Environment Protection Act. I asked this question. So Magijan has said that no, Indra, answer D is correct. Yeah, this is what I want. You guys should discuss between yourself also. Okay, so I think we can move to the next question now. There is a question like which of the following is covered under biophysical environmental impact? So I think in the slides also we discussed biophysical environmental impact. Basically, bio means life, something which has life. Physical is the like material thing in with which the life interacts. So landscape and visual is there. Okay, soil, lands and geology is there. Water is there. Language is not a biophysical thing. It's a socio-cultural thing. Okay, cultural thing or something. So the correct answer is answer A, B, and C. So basically, we need to identify the biophysical thing by environment. So that is why I put a question here. What is biophysical environment impact? So I'm put a figure here also. What constitute a biophysical impact or biophysical environment? So this constitute a biophysical environment. It does have life also, fish, rabbit, worms, fly. Okay, everything is there. Honey, bee, or something. Then we have a lot of things: clouds, rains, trees, sunlight. Sunlight itself is also a component of biophysical environment. Okay, everything: grass, crops, soil, these rocks, pebbles, everything. So you guys should have a look at this. And if there is anything which you want me to explain, please feel free to ask. Okay, no questions? JRC, major constraint identified by JRC. Okay, JRC is something like project or something, I think. I am also not sure about this thing. So I have taken it from a research paper in ResearchGate. Okay. So I think that is from some uh, authors or some consultant name which is identified. Major constraint. Okay. Okay. Any other question? So let me see what this major constraint identifies. Okay, so this must be. Let me explain it also. JRC. So basically, they have identified some constraint like short growing season is one, excessive moisture which will impact the biophysical environment, poor drainage. Okay, if it has poor drainage, then there will be some worms or something, deep heat soil. So they have identified some concerns related to GRC. Must be some consultant or something, some author name or something. So they have identified 1 to 7 this major constraints. So these are major constraint which has been identified. There will be some minor constraint also. Okay. So they have actually made the color combination also main geophysical constraint, combined geophysical constraints like dryness, erosion, all those things. Main is steep slope, poor chemical properties, all those things. Okay. Now move to the next slide. Okay. Then again there is a question on under biophysical environment impacts of air. Which one of the following are the key air pollutants? So first let us understand air pollution. Where does this come from? So if we have this air pollution term in our environment, we generally feel it from the automobiles, okay, or burning or something, okay. But not only if automobile contributes to the air pollution, various natural sources also contribute to the air pollution. Like growing of rice is an example. It contributes methane to the environment. Okay. So similar, there are various natural sources also that contribute to the air pollution. So nitrogen oxide is there as a air pollution. Ground level ozone is a problem. Ozone can exist as a stratospheric level also that prevents us from this harmful UV radiation. But ground level ozone is a pollution. It does harm our human health. Then there is a particulate matter itself. Okay. So particulate matter also comes in very small sizes. These are basically compounds of hydrocarbons or some unburnt particles. Okay, so these are identified as sizes of 2.5 micrometer and then 10 micrometer. Okay, the PM10 and PM2.5 words must you must have been heard about. Okay, particulate matter. So these three are basically three different components or key air polluted. Nitrogen oxides are basically, there are various oxides, but they are classified as NOx. So we have N2O, NO2, and NO. Okay, so these three are basically major compounds on the nitrogen oxides. There are other air pollutants also. So let me ask you guys. So what are the other air pollution things? Other air pollutants? So some of them I can see SOx is there. Yeah, SO2 or SOx. Other than that, I think there are mainly written here. Most of them are written here. These are secondary. These are derived from primary. They are not directly emitted, but some reactions occur and then these particles are generated. So I think most of them are covered. CO2 is a major pollutant. Most of the emission is in the form of CO2 or CO. Okay, from coal power plants and automobiles also. So let's move to this next slide then. In India, when the right to fair compensation and transparency in land acquisition, rehabilitation, resettlement act came into existence. So it came into existence in 2013. Okay. So then there was amendment also to this act in 2014 or 15. I don't remember, but there is an amendment also. But this act was basically in 2013. So the correct answer is A. And there was, before this act, we actually followed a British era act for land acquisition, 1894 act. So what is the difference between these two acts? So basically in 1894 act was a British era, and so era act. So whatever British want, if they want a land for something, so they, do you think they will go and ask like, yeah, I want to take your land, let's give me, I will give you fair compensation? Nothing. So they just grab the land. So there was no thing like consent of the landowner. But in 2013 Act, no consent needed for government projects. Like if there is government project, no consent needed. But consent for 70% of affected family required for PPP project. Okay, PPP project is something like government is giving the money, but private party is building. Like roads, government provide the money, but private parties build the road. Okay, and 80% for the private project. So this is the amount of consent required. Social impact assessment, no provision, but yeah, in 2013 and mandatory except in cases of urgency irrigation projects where environment impact assessment is required. Compensation based on the market value. Okay, so whatever is the market value, the compensation will be given. in 2013 Act, market value for urban areas and up to double the market value for rural areas. Okay, so this is quite a good provision. Solatium is 30%, 100% of the compensation. It is something extra payment or something, I'm not sure, or maybe advance payment. Rehabilitation and resettlement, no provision. So if you are on the land, there will be no provision for the rehabilitation and resettlement. Take your luggage and belongings and leave the land. Government has acquired it. But in 2013 Act, it is mandatory to settle the inhabitants to some good place, give them house, and then acquire the land. Okay. Complete the following diagram of the global stress. So basically, you need to identify this A, B, C, D terms. So A is something related to water, food, large scale involuntary migration, and spread of infectious disease. So this something like talks about societal things. So A must be either option A is correct or D is correct, societal. Okay. Then B. B is extreme weather events, then natural disaster, climate change. So it must be environmental. Okay. Biodiversity loss. So let's see, environmental is there, geographical is there. Climate change is not a geographical phenomenon, it's environmental. C is fiscal crisis, then it is talking about economic, energy price shock, deflation, these things. So C is economic, and D is interstate conflict. Okay, terrorist attack, this is geopolitical thing. So correct answer is A. Now the ISPO convention, what are the major obligation of the parties? ISPO convention was basically to adapt EIA for each of the member countries, make them more aware about this EIA thing and let them adopt this EIA thing. So there are various goals for this ISPO convention. So you can read these goals from here. And first thing was that to assess the environmental impact of certain activities at an early stage of planning, EIA requirement. General obligation of states to notify and consult each other on the all major projects under consideration that are likely to have a significant adverse environmental impact across boundaries. Okay, so what does this mean? Okay, the correct answer is A and B both. What does B means? So if let's say India is building, and this is India and this is Bangladesh. So river Ganges flow through it. So India is building a dam on river Ganges. Okay. So in this will affect the water availability in this Bangladesh also. So this convention means that India should consult Bangladesh also before building this dam. What are their concern regarding? So let's say they say that at least 2000 cubic meter of water should be there always. So India should take their points in note like, yeah, if 2000 meter, let's say build a dam, that always makes the availability of this much quantity of water for them. So if they, let's say there is a China is building a dam on river Brahmaputra. So similar obligation goes for China also. We consult India, the relevant parties before building anything that may harm their potential interest. Okay, so that is what ISPO convention, basically point V of ISPO convention means. As per the timeline of EIA evolution goes across the globe, what are the major milestones during 1990s? So basically major milestones were increased use of GIS and other information technologies. This is always there because that will help a proper identification of impacts also, and identification of land boundaries, scoping, everything. India also adopted the EIF formally in 1990s. When? 1994. EIA introduced by NEPA in US, wrong option. In 1970, NEPA Act was passed. Use of EIA by developing country. No, these countries, actually China passed it later or something, Brazil passed it later. They not in 90s, they were not in 90s. So correct answer is answer A and answer B. So this is basically the evolution of EIA, like passed in 1970 by NEPA, India Planning Commission asked for River Valley project to be examined. Okay, EIA notification promulgated under Environmental Protection Act. Okay, mandatory clearance, so schedule 1 of notification. Okay, EIA notification, the legislature put the onus of clearing projects on state government depending on the size capacity of the project. Draft EIA notification 2020. Okay. Then this is the time scale. Please read this time scale if you want good information about the evolution of EIA throughout the uh, different years. What are the ways contextual factors influencing the EIA? Okay, so there can be various contextual factors. Contextual factor is something which have a context with some thing like EIA system. It can be political system also. Okay, it can be environmental system also. Environmental context are also there. International convention, like I explained, the this ISPO convention or something. And then civil rights are there. Chipko Andolan, everything like we have right to have trees, our trees. So all of the above. Okay. State true or false. So late Prime Minister Indira Gandhi said the environmental problems of developing countries are not the side effects of excessive industrialization, but reflect the inadequacy of development. So she is saying that industrialization itself is not contributing the environmental problem, but we have inadequate development. That is why. So you can go to good cities in Europe like London or something. I've gone to London. I've seen the city, the way they have planned the development and environment. Every street has trees, everything is so planned. So wastewater generator from each house is going to drains, and then they are treated and they are left. So that is how the development is there. It doesn't harm environment, it actually promote environment there. Okay, the rich countries may look upon development as a cause of environmental destruction. No, but to us it is one of the primary means of improving the environment. This is correct, bilkul correct. Okay, for lot of living, providing food, water, sanitation, shelter, and making the desert green and mountains habitable. This is true statement actually by late Indira Gandhi. So this I put this here in developed country, developing country. These are taken from the slides itself and what we have in India in EIA. So you guys can go through it and see what we have in India, what how it is different from developing countries, how it is different from developed countries. Okay, Narmada Bachao Andolan. So this peak was taken in 2017 by the Frontline magazine. So how they protested, they in like what you say, waste deep water, they go into this Narmada river and protest like for this building of Sardar Sarovar Bandh. Okay, Sardar Sarovar Dam. You don't increase the dam height so that we will be inundated by the floods of the river. Many villages will go inside the river. Okay, so it was basically started in 1985, and main proponent for this Narmada Bachao Andolan was Medha Patekar, Miss or Mrs. Medha Patekar, I don't know, but Medha Patekar. Okay, so environment clearance processes includes, okay, so water act also, it does have air act also, noise pollution act, hazardous waste management rules also, it does follow all those things. Okay, so all of the correct answer is answer D. So this is how the environment legislation is passed in India. Very important table, you guys can go through the table. Okay, then another thing is that key, I put this question, I found this question quite interesting. Match the typology of environmental impact of group A with the group B. Okay. So you see direct impact, what can be direct impact? Cutting of trees, no. Extinct, effluent discharge in river, this is direct impact, water quality. Okay. Indirect impact is something deterioration of water quality into health impact, like we have seen in air pollution thing. Then our reversible impact, like cutting of trees. If we cut trees, we can slow it down and then again tree will grow. Irreversible impact, extinction of species. Okay, like Asiatic lions in Gir, if they go extinct, they will go extinct forever. We will not be able to again see lion. Okay, so that is why B is correct. Then this is how the direct impact, like there are several factors and it led to effect. In the indirect effect, there are several factors which affect it, but factor one is also contributing to the effect. So it is contributing, not contributing directly, but indirectly. Then cumulative impact is there. Every factor is there, then it will lead to a large impact. Okay, large effect. So this is how I think this has been explained in the slides itself. Okay. And then this is Brundtland Commission report, very important. Please go through it if you want to read something good. Sustainable development term is popularized by this report. So it was actually commissioned by the United Nations. Then this whole thing is there. How this report is actually um, published by the commission. Okay, Brundtland Commission. So thank you all for attending this live session. I hope this session is actually fruitful for you. You guys get some good benefit from this session. And if there are any questions, please write it to me or post it in the discussion forum. You can also scan this code or find me at this email ID. Okay. So thank you guys. Thank you for attending this live session. We will meet on the next Tuesday. Okay. Sorry, I joined late. Will the recording? Yeah, recording is always available to you guys in the problem solving session tab. When you go to the course, there is a problem solving session tab. You can go for recording. Thank you all. Good night, all. Have a good night.